Using Squarespace help.
What's happening? Of course, you know it's your boy B Hot Radio Shout in. Stepping in the building, I got a guy that is a documentarian and an entrepreneur. I mean, a true fighter. I mean, some folks say that this man is the guy that kind of started the whole consciousness movement in the community as of in these 2000s. I'm talking about my dog, Tyreek Nasheed. What's good with it, boss?
I'm good, man. What's going on with you?
I mean, feeling good, feeling great. Now, I mean, Tyreek, this new documentary,
Yes.
Buck Breaking.
Yes. Yes.
I had a chance to marinate on it, man, and I mean, it was extremely deep, profound, and everything else. Talk to me about why did you feel the need to come with Buck Breaking in this year?
We are in a warfare. We're in a state of warfare right now with the system of racism, white supremacy, and we have to understand how warfare works. Warfare is just not military. Warfare is just not physical. Warfare is also educational.
Mm-hmm.
Warfare is also scientific.
Mm-hmm.
Warfare is also sexual. There's sexual warfare.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting hit on all fronts, so we need to understand how to counter this stuff on all fronts.
Mm-hmm.
Buck Breaking talks about how we are sexually and also scientifically broken by the dominant society and how we're attacked.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at the media now, they're attacking our sexuality, they're attacking our gender. They're using all types of chemicals to masculinize women and feminize men.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that is well documented. A lot of white supremacists like to call me a conspiracy theorist for pointing this stuff out. But if you watch the movie Buck Breaking, we carefully document how black people have been experimented on. When we've been put in these prisons, they've done all types of tests and experiments on us in these prisons. These pharmaceutical companies have contracts with prisons to do experiments. And when cats go in prison, a lot of them don't come out the same, and that's by design. So we talk about historic buck breaking, them attacking our sexuality, which has been going on for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And the same tactics are being used today. So nothing has really changed, but we have been told to be afraid to talk about what's going on with us sexually because we'll get labeled homophobic.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of folks are afraid of that label, but no, we went all in and told the truth about what's going on out here.
What was it that triggered you, Tyreek, that made you say, you know what, I need to do a documentary on this and really delve deep into Buck Breaking?
What really made me want to do it is because as we see, whenever we as black people have any type of project going on, especially with the dominant society, the white LGBT community has to come in and not only piggyback off of it, but come in and control it. So everything that we see now, we're told that black people, if we do not promote the LGBT agenda, that we're homophobic and we're going to get punished. See, that's the thing. They say they'll label us and put titles on us, but then they'll start talking about how they're going to deprive us of stuff. For example, Kevin Hart. They dug up some old jokes of Kevin Hart and then told him, hey, look, if you don't bow down and apologize for telling a homophobic joke, and he's a comedian. A lot of white comedians tell the same types of jokes. They don't get punished and reprimanded. They told him, we're not going to let you host the Oscars. We're going to dangle your career in front of your face if you don't bow down to us. They did the same thing with Tracy Morgan. He told a gay joke years ago, and then they made him bow down. They do this with black people in order to kind of keep us on a leash, to make an example out of us, to let other people know, if you don't go along with this agenda, we're going to reprimand you or punish you. So I said, we're going to have to go all in and talk about how the racism from the white LGBT community is just as rigid as the racism from the white hetero community. It's almost more pronounced. Historically, the white LGBT community, they have done horrible things to black people. And I'm talking about going all the way back into ancient times. And we break that down in the movie. The trick bag that they have on us, the white LGBT community, they've done horrific things to us, and then they turn around and say, hey, we're just like you. Discriminating against us is like discriminating against black people. Misgendering me is like using the N-word against black people. So that's the trick bag that they've run on us. So we had to unravel that in the movie.
What went through your mind when you saw the correlation between Fred Hampton's rainbow and the LGBT rainbow?
And we talked about that in the movie. Fred Hampton was the brother who created the Rainbow Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
See, a lot of stuff comes from us. The Rainbow Coalition was something that our brother Fred Hampton was promoting. He was killed by an LGBT, J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover ordered his murder. So then they murdered that brother, and then they took that rainbow thing. They first gave it to Jesse Jackson. He started doing the Rainbow Coalition, and then the white LGBT community saw that that rainbow thing was connected to black organizations. Then they piggybacked off of it. They also have something now, we talked about this in the movie, they have something called the Rainbow Underground, playing on the Underground Railroad, where they get LGBT people from Africa and the Caribbean to bring them over here and make them the leaders of black organizations. So it's a real deep agenda that's going on, and we should not be ashamed of calling that out.
The movie coming out #1 on Amazon. Man, talk to me about that success.
Now that one shocked me. That shocked me because usually we're the #1 documentary. I'm like, yeah, cool. Right now, we're the #1 movie, period, on Amazon. I'm like, period, we're the #1 movie out of all movies. I'm talking about Harry Potter, King Kong versus Godzilla on Amazon. We're the #1 movie right this minute. So that shocked me. But that just shows the power of black people, man. We have to stop thinking we have to go to the dominant society in order to get stuff popping. There's enough of us, and when we get on code, we can get stuff popping, and we got the numbers to prove it. Now, what's interesting, before the movie came out, the week before, I was attacked in the media heavy. Well, they were going in on me about all types of stuff. They were just coming up with all types of reasons to attack me. I'm chilling and I hear on TV how I'm a horrible person, and I turn on radio and all these talk shows and I'm horrible, I'm this, I'm that. And they always do that whenever I try to put a movie out. They try to do this to discredit me because I don't go through those channels. I'm one of the few people, fortunately, who can get a project like this popping without going to the dominant society, without kissing the ass. You know, and I want us to get into the habit of getting stuff done without having to suck up to them, because we have enough numbers. We don't need middlemen. They have to go through us anyway, because they look at black people as the progenitors of culture. Let me tell you something. I was on a plane one time, and there was a sister sitting next to me. And we're just talking, and she was telling me about what she does. And she's an internet consultant. What she does, she told me that these corporations like Coca-Cola and so many others, she worked with Coca-Cola, they have people on payroll who just sit around and study black people online. All they do is watch black people's Instagrams, watch black people's Twitter, and find out what we're doing, where's the culture going, and then they come up with little marketing techniques based on the trends of what black people are doing online. We're studied all the time, man. So we have to understand our worth and our power and utilize it for ourselves.
When you watch social media and you watch different platforms that, you know, kind of coincide with the movie Buck Breaking, and you see how subliminally you can watch that and then wind up buck broken this thing. What goes through your mind at that time when you think about social media as a weapon as well?
Yeah, on social media, what's interesting, and this is a big problem that I have, is that they target children with this stuff. They start telling children that, you know, you should put on a dress, and they're talking about pedophilia as if it's like a lifestyle now. So they're trying to push that to kids. That's where we have to kind of draw the line and say, hey, enough is enough. We got to stop being afraid to call these people out, because they're putting a lot of stuff in cartoons. You look at Netflix, I was looking at Netflix one day and there was a cartoon. I'm watching with my kids and the cartoon character was like, "Hey, I'm gay," and whoop de whoop. I'm like, what is this doing in a cartoon? Okay. So Disney got something now. They have the Proud Family coming out again. They did a revamp of the Proud Family, so they're gonna have two gay dads in the Proud Family and an interracial couple, and they got a non-binary character. So this is warfare, man. They're putting this stuff on our children. Our children are too young to really focus and understand what this stuff is really about. When we start trying to teach LGBT history, and I always ask people, what exactly is that? Because how are you going to explain what those letters mean? LGBT, bisexual. How do you explain what a bisexual is to a damn 4 or 5-year-old? See, we got to understand what these people are trying to do. The movie Butt Breaking is going to help people deprogram themselves from the propaganda that we're getting hit with. I mean, they're hitting our children with cartoons, they're hitting adults, they're hitting everybody with this stuff, and we have to know how to counter that.
Population control, how much of a factor do you think that plays into everything, if any?
Yeah, I believe it does play into population control. There's a reason why they keep promoting non-procreative sex to black people. They're promoting this to us heavy. Let's be clear, they don't really promote this stuff to white society too heavy, because white people, they fight about this stuff. They fight about LGBT. They're like, hey, you ain't gonna teach this to us. They have a knockdown, drag out fight about it. But with black people, all of the dominant society, they're perfectly fine with this stuff being taught to us, because if it can lower our population, so be it. Also, if that can bring in diseases or whatever, so be it. Also, if it can break our children and destroy the warrior class, so be it. So they got a lot of benefits for teaching us this type of agenda.
When you're looking at television and you're thinking about music as well, man, and just the socialization of our community through those tactics and stuff like that, how much responsibility should we take as the community? Because at the end of the day, we are those characters that are on television and on radio and then, in the music as well. So how much of a responsibility do you expect us to take? Corey Holcomb, he was on the documentary as well, and he would not put on that dress.
Yeah.
So that was an example of somebody that takes responsibility in how he carries himself out here in these streets. How much of a responsibility do you think everybody needs to take? Oh, well, as far as getting on code.
Right. We don't have to do everything for money, man. We gotta understand, every time we get around the dominant society, man, we gotta start shucking and jiving and bowing down just to get $1. Mm-hmm. We gotta get that whole mentality out of our system. And a lot of people in Hollywood, unfortunately, they feel like if they got to get the next role, and which is what it is in Hollywood. If you want to get down in Hollywood, man, the old thing is they said you got to put on a damn dress at this point to get to a certain level. So they know what they're doing in the Hollywood game. And Hollywood is real funny style, man. They got pedophile rings out there. There was a white lady who's a conservative, but I'm real cool with. She had a movie called An Open Secret, exposing a lot of those pedophile rings out there in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And they got her movie shut down. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on out there. And when black people try to get into those circles, and not just in Hollywood, man, let's be clear, when black people are in corporate America, you got to be a certain way to rise up on the corporate ladder, man. They don't let certain people rise up on that corporate ladder unless they got someone you sexually. But another thing, man, if we break this down in the movie, there's a terrible lie that's promoted by the white community against black people, is that the black community is intrinsically homophobic. That's a lie that's been promoted against us for so long, and we have to start calling that lie out. Black people are not homophobic, and we've never been homophobic. During the Jim Crow era, there were a lot of black entertainers who were LGBT that we knew about. Mom's Maid. What's that movie they just did? Denzel directed that movie with our sister. It was an old blues singer, but she was LGBT.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The Harlem Renaissance. That was an LGBT movement. Langston Hughes and all those folks, all of those were LGBT people. We knew it and we respected them. In the Civil Rights Movement, Bayard Rustin, we knew Bayard Rustin was LGBT. He was CIA too, by the way, but that's another thing. Mm-hmm. James Baldwin, we knew he was LGBT. We had no problem with him. In the 70s, the disco era was an LGBT movement. A lot of black LGBT, the Village People, we all knew what folks were. That was not a problem. That lie started being promoted in the 90s by the white LGBT community to really show or try to create a comparative bigotry among black people so that they could punish and criticize us and kind of get us on code for their agenda. So when they start talking about they are marginalized like we are, then we shouldn't be able to say anything about it. That was to silence us. So we got to stop being afraid to call that out. The black community has never been homophobic. We're not homophobic now. We're in Atlanta. This is the most homosexual friendly city in the world. And we've never been homophobic as a community, and we don't have any mechanisms to deprive anybody of anything anyway. What's interesting, that whole black people are homophobic, that's a projection from the white LGBT community, because they're the ones who are discriminatory against black LGBT people. They don't let them into their circles, they don't let them into their clubs, they don't share the resources generated from all of these movements that they make. The white LGBT community makes billions of dollars. They get a lot of money. And they do not share that with black LGBT people who they use as mascots. So we have to call all that stuff out. We break that down in the movie too.
What is it like for you though, Tyreek, as a person that's creating this content and then having to deal with that backlash behind it, and then also finding yourself standing in the corner by yourself, fighting a good fight, you know, and just standing up for your truth and your beliefs?
Hey man, we got to stop being afraid. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people, look, my house has been raided. They demonize me in the media all the time. That happens. But look, even if we don't do anything, look what happens to us, man. Black people, we get targeted, we get killed, we get marginalized for going along with the program. Hell, even the coons who are out here buck dancing, they get thrown under the bus when their cooning has expired. You understand? So there is no retirement plan for going along with the system of white supremacy, man. We got to stop being afraid of calling that thing out, and we have to speak truth to power out here.
When you think about buck breaking and you taking it all the way back in history to Greco-Roman times to today, what do you think about buck breaking historically?
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. We got real deep in the movie, man. We talked about our relations to European culture, and European culture has always been about sexual dominance from day one. The minute they came out of Europe, the Greco-Roman culture, when you go over to Greece, man, you see a lot of that stuff now and all of the artifacts and all that. So when they got into contact with black culture, the first thing they started doing was dominating and sodomizing the men. They were turning black men into eunuchs. The white Arab culture was getting in on that too. So we talked about buck breaking not just in the realm of plantations, because that was a small factor of it, even way before we had to get into the history of it. And it's deep. Even after slavery, when they were lynching brothers, that was a homoerotic thing where all these white men would get together and look at nude black men and then fight over who's going to take the genitalia of these black men. So this buck breaking thing has never stopped.
Okay, Tyreek, you are a historian at the same time and documentarian. What information have you came across that just wore you the hell out?
Oh man. Well, understanding European culture, nothing really shocks me. But one thing that kind of blew me away a little bit when we were filming buck breaking, and I was down in New Orleans, and there was a white woman, and that's another thing. See, we think just the white men be on that BS. The white women be getting in on it too. And there was a woman out there who was a slave owner named Madame Lillerie, and I filmed outside of her mansion out there in New Orleans, and this woman was doing all types of crazy experiments on black people. She was also doing crude sex changes on black people. And she was so horrific, they had to run her out, and white folks ran her out of New Orleans. That's how bad she was.
Yeah.
So when white folks run you out of somewhere, you really bad. So we talk about how a lot of these experiments sexually been done on black people in slavery. In the 1960s, the first legal sex change was done on a black man. So we've always been the guinea pigs for a lot of this stuff. That's why a lot of people are real funny style about taking these vaccines. I won't go there, you know what I'm saying? Because we start talking about them vaccines, they start, people's social media start disappearing, but I'm just gonna say that. But again, watch the movie. We talk about the medical apartheid that goes hand in hand with buck breaking.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of dance around the vaccine, but I'm gonna go back into the medicine side of it. When we think of medicine and African Americans, man, and the historical context in which Africans have been cut, to see how much pain can they take? How much heat does it take to make the skin blister? What goes through your mind with that, with the historic reference of African Americans and medicine?
They've always been the dominant society. They've always been marveled about our physical strength, our melanin. I mean, that's something that has intrigued them since the beginning of time. in slavery, they would do all of these experiments on us. They would learn gynecology by studying the body of the black woman and chopping up and doing all types of things to the black woman's genitals. Even when Nat Turner, when he did the rebellion out there in Virginia, they got him and dissected his body and burned his skin and used his oil, and they would sell it to white people because they thought it was magic. Going back into ancient Egypt culture, they got those mummies out in Europe. They brought those mummies to Europe, those black mummies, and started powdering them up and selling them and ingesting them. There's a great book called The Delectable Negro, talking about how white society, they've always had this thing about cannibalizing us. Mm-hmm. The Jeffrey Dahmers, that wasn't the first one, would sit up here and kill black people and eat them and ingest them. That's been going on for a long time. With them people getting our penises and all that stuff and keeping them in jars. Some of these people were eating our bodies, man. They were out here in Atlanta, as a matter of fact. When W.E.B. Du Bois came out here to Atlanta, he went by a grocery store and saw meat. And there were the knuckles of a black man being sold in the meat section. And he was like, oh my God, what the hell is going on down south? So these people have always had these crazy fetishes about us, ingesting us. And let's go back to the medicine thing. They've been studying our bodies. We know about Henrietta Lacks, where they got this woman's cells, and they've been using this woman's cells, making trillions of dollars off her cells. That's just the one we know about. Mm-hmm. We know about the experiments that they've done in jail. The Tuskegee thing, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's the only one that they really admitted to. They still do these experiments with our bodies. They keep our genitals and our body parts hidden in all of these little secret places. Out there recently in Philadelphia, I think, at a museum, they had the heads of the children that were killed in that MOVE bombing that happened in 1985, where they killed all those black people and they dropped explosives on a city street and killed all these black people. They had the remains of these black children that they were storing in the basement of a museum. So they've been studying us and keeping our bodies and heads for years because they relish us.
When it comes to the African American experience in slavery,
yeah.
Because the thing is also you don't see that kind of history taught. You know, what really happened to Nat Turner when they caught Nat Turner. We just know that Nat Turner died, but we don't know that it went down when they caught him. Yes. And that happened for a lot of different African Americans at that time if you rebelled and then also there were a lot more people rebelling than mentioned in history as well. So you got a lot of people thinking that folks just enjoyed slavery all the time.
Yeah.
But then you got some people thinking that you enjoyed it, but not knowing that they were cutting your limbs off every 5 minutes. Yeah. So break down the African American experience in slavery from a brutally honest perspective outside of what we see on a regular basis.
Yeah, and again, going back to Nat Turner, the descendants of Nat Turner, his family, they just got his skull back. They had his skull floating around out there for centuries, and they just got the skull back. It was in Ohio somewhere, so they've done some very brutal things. But when we talk about slavery, they never talk about the rebels that we've had. Mm-hmm. Nat Turner, when he was after he killed all those white people, he was on his way to a place called the Great Dismal Swamp. That's a place up there in the Virginia area where there was a maroon colony. A lot of folks don't talk about this. There was a maroon colony there that had been there for a long time where white people couldn't go into the Great Dismal Swamp. White people just couldn't go. You get killed if you go up in there. Mm. And that was a sanctuary for a lot of black people. Never talked about. I'm working on another movie now. That's why I'm down here now. Okay, because I'm looking at different plantations here. We're going to be filming in Florida and Virginia. We're going to be talking about black maroons in America. Because I did a movie in 1804 talking about the maroons who overthrew the government out there in Haiti.
That's right.
A lot of that, some of that went down over here, especially down in Florida. The story about the Black Seminoles, a lot of folks don't know about that. That was a successful slave rebellion where a lot of black people rebelled against slavery, went down there, fought the U.S. government and won and got their freedom. And nobody really knows about that story. So we're going to break that down. That's going to be the next project.
What are your thoughts about African Americans and Indians and which one? Because you could kind of you could try to tell some people that, hey man, you are a Native American, but they don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Man, the Aboriginal people of this land were also black people. Mm-hmm. This is something that they've been hiding from us for a long time. When Columbus and all of these European explorers came here, They said they saw the same people over here that they saw in Africa, and what they used to call Ethiopia. Almost every white explorer said they saw black-skinned, woolly-haired people over here in the Americas. Our brother Ivan Van Sertima has a book that came before Columbus, where he talks about the black people who were here. We only know about the Mongolian-looking Native Americans. That's who they tell us who was here. But there were also the black Aboriginal Native Americans, especially in California, especially around North Carolina, deep down in Florida. That's a story that we have to tell too. A lot of black people were already here. This is why I rarely use the term African American. Now let's be clear, the African people who were brought over, we did mix, we all got all mixed in together. But I use the term foundational black American because black people were the foundation of this country who were already here, and they know that. But what they do, they try to tell us that we are foreign, we came from some other place, so we don't have a birthright to this land. So we have to understand the con game that they run on us.
Putting this documentary together during the pandemic, what was that like for you?
Yeah, that delayed it a little bit. Yeah, because I was working on this thing a couple of years ago. Then the pandemic came, so I had to delay traveling around the country, but then I was able to navigate it, and we finally got it together, and man, people really, really gravitated towards it now.
With it catching fire like it's been catching, I mean, what are your thoughts when, because see, I hate to double back to this, but I want to know about your psyche, Tyreek, being able to deal with the pressure. Like you said, you look up, you got SWAT teams trying to get in your house to get to you. I know your comment section is just off the damn chain on any social media platform. How do you mentally stay sane and focused while putting out this kind of content?
It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's real difficult. I'm not gonna lie. It's very difficult, man. You gotta do this stuff. You understand? But we're in a war, man, and this is what warfare is. We have to understand. We just being sitting ducks in war, that's not gonna cut it. You know, the price of liberty is death. Sometimes you might get hit, but if I get hit, I'm gonna have enough content out there that's gonna live on. So am I gonna die? You understand? We don't really die, man. Whatever you do in life, man, that's going to live on. Malcolm X didn't really die. I'm Malcolm X. You Malcolm X. We're Malcolm X. Dr. King. We're Dr. King. This is why it's important to have a legacy. Coons don't have legacies. You understand? Coons die 1,000 deaths. You know what I'm saying? They don't have no legacy. That's not how you want to live. You don't want to live like a rat. Going back to Fred Hampton, the guy who snitched on Fred Hampton, William, I forgot his last name. This dude was a rat. He lived like a rat, and he died like a rat. He got hit by a fucking car. That's living and dying. And after he was in witness protection, this dude had to hide out the rest of his life and then got hit by a damn car like a rodent. That's not how you live, man.
What are your thoughts on those that, you know, pull what they are and pull and work against as an opposition towards the movement, man?
Hey, man. We got to understand that's going to happen. We got to understand we're going to have some turncoats out here, but we got to have enough of us on code where the turncoats will be ineffective. See, this is why it's important for a lot of us to be on code. Because the thing is, the dominant society, they're going to elevate the turncoats. We better watch. Whoever they're elevating on television, we better watch them. Those are the ones we better say, hey, let's not have them in our circles. If they're promoting somebody way too much, that's a problem.
From the business standpoint of everything, though, Tyreek, you're independent, making it do what it's supposed to, but you're still successful at the same time. Can you break down that game to me for those that want to be independent filmmakers as well and want to put out content, but they feel like they need to be accepted by the dominant society to be successful?
I tell black people, man, if you want to be successful independently, you got to learn how to gain the trust of the community. When they trust you, they'll support you, but you got to trust yourself. We don't trust ourselves. Folks think, okay, I need somebody white to help me. We got to get that out of our system. When you start trusting yourself, you can get stuff done. I want us to understand as black people, man, we're the ones who really put a lot of game out here that a lot of people get and they use it and we think it's something that they created and it's something that came from us. Direct marketing, like Avon and Mary Kay and all of those products that makes millions of dollars, they got all that game from Madam C.J. Walker. Madam C.J. Walker was the first person to do direct sales and direct marketing where they would have certain tiers of people sell to different tiers and they had all of these agents all over the place. They got that directly from sisters, man. A lot of the game, independent filming as we know it, they got it from Oscar Mitchell. That was a brother who could not get into the Hollywood game because that was monopolized by a few white families. So this brother started doing what was called four-walling theaters around the country, meaning paying to get his movie, well, paying to rent a theater and then raising the money and showing his movies independently. He was the one who really got the independent movie game popping. A lot of people believe the Oscar award is really named after him secretly. Mm-hmm. So we have to understand what we've done in the game. Our brother, Melvin Van Peebles, who I know, real good dude, the blaxploitation game, he got that popping again by going to the grassroots, getting support. Hollywood saw that and jumped on his bandwagon. Yeah. So even now, with my independent films, with Hidden Colors and all that, Hollywood, they know what's up. This is why Hollywood keeps trying to put out their little slave movies now. If you notice, they're putting out movies like Hidden Figures. That's not a coincidence they named their movie Hidden Damn Figures, man. You understand? So
I gotta ask this question too, because I have been seeing a lot of Hollywood television shows now that are based in those Jim Crow eras and slave eras, but they're no longer depicting the black people as going along with the program now. So you got different shows that show black people standing up, like Lovecraft Country, they're in there raising Cain. They were in there raising Cain as well too. So what do you think about the narrative being kind of switched up?
Because Lovecraft was cool. There's another thing on Amazon now called Underground, I think Underground Railroad, something like that. Yeah, but here's the trick. Yeah, here's the trick though. They'll show our history of us kind of fighting back, but in the realm of fantasy, they'll inject some type of science fiction fantasy with demons and warlocks. So now, it's like Star Wars now, so it's not a threat. Yeah. In real life, they're not going to tell what really happened. We're talking about, in this next movie, we're going to talk about what the Seminoles did down there in Florida. They were down there killing them white plantation owners for real. Wasn't no damn fantasy. They were going to plantation to plantation in Florida, burning them shits down and killing the white slave owners all in Florida. That ain't no fantasy. It ain't going to be no warlocks, no science fiction, no demons, no Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to tell the truth.
No, I'm with you on that. When you put it that way, I definitely understand where you're coming from with that, because it is science fiction when you look at it.
And they do the same thing when they depict European history. Whenever they talk about European history, like back in the Dark Ages, they always put it in the realm of fantasy, just like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. It's always a fantasy thing because back in those days, Europe wasn't shit. Europe was struggling.
And they would take you up in that too.
Yeah. Europe was not the place to be, man. Europe was a hellhole. So they don't want to show how it really, really was and how the Moors had to go in there and clean all that up. That's the truth.
What do you think about how the Moors were treated after they cleaned everything up?
After the Moors cleaned everything up, the dominant society understood, well, not the dominant society, the white society over there started to see their phenotype changing. The Spanish people started getting darker. So they said, okay, we want to stay white. These people are doing something to our bloodline. So the first blood laws and the blood quantum laws came from the white Christians of Spain. They started to say, hey, we need an Inquisition. We need a Reconquista to get all the Jews and the Moors out of here because they're changing our bloodline. They're turning us into mulattoes. That's really what the Crusade, not the Crusades, but the Reconquista was all about. So they were pushing the Moors, and it took them 700 years to finally get the Moors out of Europe, out of Spain. And in the year 1891, November 25th, that's when they got the keys to Grenada, which was the last Moorish palace there. It was a black Moor named Boabdil, and they got the keys from him on November 25th. That's where Thanksgiving really comes from. Thanksgiving don't come from them eating no damn turkey and stuff with the Indians over here. It came from them getting the keys to Grenada so they can get access to those maps. The minute they got access to those Moorish maps, Christopher Columbus got those Moorish sailors, the Nino brothers, and he immediately came over here, and then they started to conquer different parts of the world.
Now, on another note, to switch it up a little bit, what do you think about hip-hop with the deaths of a lot of young rappers in the last few years? It seems like, people are dying every other week in hip-hop, and these are large artists that could really affect change if they had an opportunity to grow up a little bit.
You know what's interesting in the hip-hop game now, they promote a lot of drug use, heavy. They let rappers know, hey man, if you rap about lean and mollies and doing all this, man, we'll triple your budget, we'll triple your video budget, we'll get you a bigger tour budget. Back in the golden era of hip hop, man, even though there were drug users, the people self-regulated themselves and said, hey, we're not going to promote drug use. Now, we'll talk about slinging dope or whatever, but we're not going to talk about drug use. We're not going to promote that to the kids. That's what Self-Destruction and all those records came out. But now, man, it is completely glorified. And then we have all these brothers and sisters, well, really brothers, dying because of this stuff. So that's not cool. We need to get back on code where we don't really promote that. That's not what we need to be promoting at all, just for health reasons.
When you're not doing documentaries and raising Cain, what are you doing for it, Tyreek?
Man, I'm always working on stuff, man. I'm working on a book now called Foundational Black American Race Hustler, because the white supremacists always call me a race baiter and a race hustler, so that's going to be the name of my book.
Well, break that down. Get a little deeper with that.
Yeah. I'm talking about that. Yeah. If you Google race hustler, I think my face come up. Literally, my face will come up, because the white supremacists hate to be called out. That's the thing. They like to play this game where white supremacy is not supposed to exist, and everything that bad happens to black people is our own fault. Everything that happens to us is dominated and orchestrated by the white supremacists, and we have to acknowledge that. And I talk about how deep white supremacy is in the book, and I talk a little bit about my life in relations to me understanding white supremacy growing up, me figuring out this thing, because it takes a lot of us a long time to figure out how the system works, if we do figure it out, because it's a very intricate system. So that book is going to be coming out hopefully this fall, and I'm finishing up on it now. So I'm always working on stuff.
Getting us on code, though, Tyreek. How do we get everybody to understand that, hey, man, we are family, we need to be working together, we need to support each other, we need to be able to go directly to the consumer with each other to make this money, and then also put the money back into the community at the same time?
And this is why we have to fight propaganda. See, the dominant society, they promote to us, well, look, you black folks don't need to be all as a group and on code. It's all about individuality with you black folks. This is why they're always trying to elevate one over the other. They're always trying to incentivize one black person over the other. And we got to stop falling for that trick bag. When we look at black folks on television, in order to get on TV, they make you talk down to other black people. And I really hate when I see sports figures do this. The Charles Barkleys and all these people, they got to get on the ESPN and talk down on black people. Our brother Kwame Brown called that out recently. Shout out to that brother.
What are your thoughts on Kwame raising Cain? Because it seems like Kwame was not going for it.
Man, that brother, he went there. They were talking about him, and he said, look, a lot of y'all, including Stephen A. Smith, y'all make y'all money sitting on TV denigrating black men. Y'all some Sambos. He was keeping it. I didn't see no lie in what he was saying, man. Because I done called Stephen A. Smith out over his Samboing before. You can't sit around here and get on TV and say anything about the white people, but you can talk about black folks all day. When, like LeBron James, he just talked about the sister up there in Ohio getting stabbed, and they attacked him like, oh, stick to basketball. But when you want to talk about how black on black crime is a problem, well, they'll let all the sports figures talk about that. So they play this little double standard game, and we got to stop being afraid of calling that out.
Reality, Tyreek, because this reality of buck breaking, if you were to send this to people that are not woke or don't have a clue, this would be in an alternate universe to them. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, break down the realities that are out here that people might not understand or recognize at the same time.
Man, people know instinctively that something is going on, because, look, when we look at television, we see an agenda, man. Everything we see on TV when it relates to us, they're talking about we have to embrace different types of sexualities. We see it, it's in our schools, it's everywhere, especially with black people. So even black people who are in denial, when they see buck breaking, you can't deny that. We just put so much truth there, so much documentation there, so much real history there, so many receipts there. You cannot deny the truth of what's going on out here.
Okay, so now I got to go ahead and take it that Tyreek.
Yeah.
Lil Boosie, he rose Cain about, Dwayne Wade's son.
Yeah.
He went over there to talk to Mike Tyson about it. Mike Tyson, kind of gave him the business because his daughter was gay, And that turned out to be a whole crazy ordeal for Boosie. I mean, it was not good publicity that followed his opinions on that. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, Boosie, he spoke his opinion, and that's the thing. When people like Boosie and any other person speaks about their opinion on children being sexualized, because that's where it is with me. I don't want to see any child being sexualized. No matter girl, boy, whatever, trans, non-binary, whatever you want to say, that's just not cool as far as children. So I feel Bootsy on that. And this thing where they got drag queen story time, where they got these drag queens reading to children, I don't think that's cool because a lot of these people have been charged with pedophilia. So we shouldn't have that around our kids, and we have to stop being afraid of calling that out. But again, black people, we've been told if we call it out, that's just more of that black homophobia. Let's stop being afraid of the labels they're going to give us because they're going to call us names anyway. We got to stop being afraid of that and call this nonsense out, man.
Transhumanization. See, I understood transgenders, but when y'all came with the transhumanization, I said, oh, they done took it up to another notch in this thing. Yeah. Break that down, Tyree.
Man, a lot of these folks, and that's another part of the game, this trans thing, they keep calling it trans, and a lot of these people who are connected with a lot of these LGBT programs, and also a lot of people who are connected with these pedophilia cases like Epstein, these people were into transhumanism, where they're trying to morph humans in with machines, and this is like a new eugenics program. See, it all goes back to white supremacy. The eugenics program was about white supremacists determining who's going to be fit to survive and live and how they can tailor the population. So now when they're using this trans thing, they're getting the word trans out there so they can get federal funds, tax dollars, so that the public can be on board with it. There's not going to be an outcry because the trans thing is already out there. So they can go transgender, transsexual, transracial, just like with that Rachel Dolezal thing. They're going to just do everybody's genderless, and you can be better controlled if everybody's just one big old android type of thing. Just like they did on plantations, brother. Plantations were experimental locations. On the plantations, as we talked about in the movie Buck Breaking, they ungendered everybody. They treated black men and black women the same. They put little boys in dresses. They made the black women go out there and haul the same amount of cotton as the black men. That's what Sojourner Truth said. Ain't I a woman? Y'all treat me like a damn man. We were ungendered, and that's what they're doing now. They have to experiment on us first because, see, we're the ones who always fight against the system of white supremacy. We're the only ones who consistently fight against that. Once they can break us, they got everybody else.
So where do you think the transhumanization is going, and what do you see the future of that if it gets, put into main society?
Man, when they do the transhuman thing, see, that's when they started planting chips. Because when people are talking about these vaccines, you saw a lot of people were concerned about chips being injected into people.
Nanotechnology.
Right, that nanotechnology. Once they start putting these chips and things in people and messing people with machines, they already do stuff like that with lure plants and all that. So them doing that on a scale, they can control people. If they want to find somebody and they want to off somebody, hell, you can just push a couple of buttons and off a whole generation of people, just like that. So that's why they're trying to push this thing. You can control people way better.
How did you survive COVID-19, Tyree?
Man, I stayed in the crib. And I wore the mask, but I mainly stayed in the crib, and I played it real safe, man.
Yeah.
I played it very safe, and thank goodness I didn't get no COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm glad everybody who got it recovered.
Exactly. Lastly, how can these folks contact you? What you got coming up next, and is there anything that you want to get off your chest?
Hey, man, y'all need to go get Buck Breaking at buckbreakingmovie.com. You know what? When I did the movie, because there is some of the things are a little explicit in there.
It's real.
Yeah, some of it gets real. And I was put this in there. I said, look, we might as well tell the whole truth. I'm not gonna play no games with it, man. It happened. We need to see the graphicness of it and show what happened and talk about what happened. Share it with your kids. For a minute, I was like, I don't know if kids should watch it. If you have kids, I would say from 10 so that they can understand what's going on. Families, some of it is a little graphic, but it's graphic in a historical sense. Share this movie, talk about it in the communities, understand what these folks are trying to do to us. It is warfare. We have to debrief ourselves. Go to buckbreakingmovie.com. I'm going to possibly have to do a Buck Breaking 2.
What?
Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff we didn't get to. Because this movie is so successful and so many people are just gravitating towards it, I know we're going to eventually have to do a sequel to this, probably after the next movie that I'm doing. But everybody can follow me on Twitter at Tariq Nasheed. Follow me on Instagram at Tariq Elite. And go to hiddencolorsfilm.com to get all the other movies. Also, 1804, The Hidden History of Haiti, which I got to get you a copy of that. That's a great movie. It was Haitian Flag Day the other day, and a lot of my Haitian brothers and sisters were shouting that movie out. So look, we're making an impact with these things, man. Black independent films, man, we getting this stuff out here without the dominant society's approval, which is what it should be. We got to be about nation building.
Also, I got to jump in here with one more question. The trauma, okay, because buck breaking shows the trauma of slavery, okay, and that being passed down generation to generation. How do you feel like that affected Black people? And then also, how do we heal from that trauma and move forward? Yeah, can we even do it? Is it just embedded in us now? They done beat us so doggone bad.
No. What we do, we use trauma and we use that as fuel of strength. Mm-hmm. We got to understand that over in Europe, the white society felt like they were traumatized when the Moors were dominating that area. They used that as fuel to say, hey, look, we need to start dominating them so that our bloodline can survive. So people need to learn how to use trauma as fuel for their empowerment, and that's what we're doing now. Look, both of my sides of my family are descendants of slaves. We went through trauma. When we filmed Buck Breaking, I filmed on plantations in Louisiana. I wanted that energy. I wanted that traumatic energy that our brothers and sisters suffered so I could fuel this movie to get the message out, to let them know we didn't forget about you. We respect your history. We respect your sacrifice that you did for us, and we're going to fight these white supremacists for you. You didn't sacrifice your life for us to sit up here being coons. We're going to carry on the legacy of empowerment, and we're going to do it unapologetically.
What has been the most fulfilling thing about you creating all this content over the years?
Man, just to have people appreciate it, man. It's successful. It resonates all around the world. The white supremacists are mad, and that's always a good thing. When they're mad, that means I'm doing something right. Brothers and sisters are using this in schools. They teach this stuff in universities and schools all over the world, and that's the rewarding thing, man. It gets a lot of us on code.
Also, the cast. Getting those educated people together. And then what those people bring to each movie.
Are always good people that I like listening to. And it's very interesting that we got to get people, because you can know a lot of stuff, but if you don't have a certain level of charisma, that's very important.
That's
charisma
true.
Is very important, man.
Come on.
So I like to get people who people can watch on a big screen for 2 hours. Yeah. Because you got to keep people engaged. You got to keep them engaged. So charisma is very important. So if you notice, a lot of my speakers are very charismatic. You love to hear them teach, and beautiful Black folks. And I want Black folks to understand we can learn without us shucking and jiving. We're told that in order for Black folks or Black kids to learn something, you got to be doing dancing and doing the goddamn beatbox of ABCs and all this silly shit. No, you get some charismatic Black people who are nurturing the information. We're going to gravitate towards it and love it.
Come on now, Tariq, as always, appreciate you coming through this thing, folks. Wishing you nothing the best and much success, man.
Anytime, man. Anytime I'm here for you, B.
Already. Be Hot Radio Shouty, Tariq Nasheed. We'll holler at y'all in a minute, man. We go.
She really not into the show. She said, I ain't never seen this shit. That's what I said.
Well, I don't know why you don't believe that it come on HBO.
Don't tell me. This bitch come on HBO and Fox. You can't watch it without your socks. You gonna be sliding on the floor. You like the 85 South Shore.
Hey.
Can't watch it without your socks. If you got some flip-flops. Oh, but I'll be sitting on the floor when I get home.
What?
But I'll be sitting on the floor when I get home.
That's how you live?
But I'll be sitting on the floor when I motherfucker talking about non-stop, you can get them done.
Damn. It's an expensive dog.
Excited. Excited. Excited.
You gotta take some thousands off because this shit in the house.
What'd you say?
You gotta take some money off because this shit in the house.
Let's not play with my musical talents, man. Look, they say, put that on the song right there. But I'll be sitting there when I get home. She been breaking my heart, 2 shows, me the finger home.
Just like the tired of here. She tired of waiting on you. She said she would have been in bed 2 hours ago.
They gonna believe that. They were like, damn, she still bringing it up 2 episodes in.
How you living? How's everybody feeling right now? Everybody good?
Feeling
We
great.
We living. We breathing.
That's all we doing?
But I'll be none of the way to get home.
That's how you gonna do?
But I'll be none of the way to get home. Anybody
You know what the song gotta be called?
what?
Responsibilities.
Anybody dog be cheating. You just got your carpet clean, boy, he is missing. See, that's how niggas don't understand, man. Music, you don't need all them 808s and all that extra shit. You just need a nigga who know what he doing with good dog them shit will do.
Then you come up with some shit like this. And then you come up with some shit like this. That's all you need.
That's all you need. Need some dancing music, man. They be playing stereo music in the club now. Fuck these niggas. You like, yeah, fuck these niggas, man. I don't want to do shit, but look at everybody look at me. Fuck you looking at, nigga. Everybody be like talking their ass. What? Nigga? Hey, you wanna do? What you wanna do? Bitch. You play this shit, you ain't gonna be doing nothing. You like you shit, you know that. You over there.
I wonder if those questions ever went too far. Like, nigga, like, what the fuck you looking at? What were we looking at? Huh? What did you just say? I'm just saying. I thought you saw something. No, did somebody say something? What the fuck are we?
I remember one time I had something in my eye, and I was looking this way, and I was like, and in my head, I'm like, damn, I had that shit in my eye. Nigga like, fuck you looking at? I'm like, I looked at that nigga walking to me, what the fuck you looking at? What the fuck wrong with this nigga, man? I'm standing trying to get shit out of my eye. I'm like, hey, man, why this nigga walking over there, man? It's drip.
That's how people get down, though. Hey man, welcome back to the 85 South Show. Hey man, we just chilling in this bit right now.
We got an icon in that motherfucker, man.
Man, that's why I really was just sitting here chilling, because shit, I always just wanted to just be hanging with Mr. Cool.
Hang with Mr. Cool.
Hey man, first of all, you one of those guys, man. You're a legend of us, man. Because we grew up watching. You had a dope ass show at the height of black TV, man.
What's up, big? Come on, man. Come on.
Man, you was out there really wrecking them stages, but then you was really like going to work and doing the whole, you know what I'm saying? The whole caravan shit. People really thought that was you and shit.
They really did. Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be with you two.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
They
that.
fire right here.
Yeah,
Work with these two is like Red Bull and you guys are fire. Just wanted to say that. Working with you guys, you know, I've been in the game a long time. Ain't too many guys come up with, you know, with this fire.
Right.
Appreciate fire.
Appreciate that.
Want to let you know that. You guys got some good snacks. Everything they gave me was unhealthy.
Yeah.
I had so much that I'm ready to go. I had corn puffs, corn tacos,
That's how we living over here, man. You could always judge a place by the snacks.
Right.
Yeah, and the abundance of.
I like how they brought the snacks out in a box.
Yeah, like it was a big reveal.
Number plain Fritos. I'm like, nigga, did you get this from a nursing home? Plain Fritos, this shit stink.
That's the black production. All the good shit was gone first.
Yeah, exactly.
We got cheeses. This is an after school program.
Man, I got 1,000,001 questions, man. But it's like,
shit.
how did, first of all, tell me how you came about like getting your whole show. How did you get the process started? Where you started comedy at? Like who you started with? All that shit.
I always was a funny guy. I'm getting the show. I did. How did I get the show? I can't remember now. I do HBO special first. I think I did HBO special. Yeah, I did HBO special. I was on tour with HBO saw me, and so they gave me HBO special. I did my special.
Waiting on everybody to get in. With Zone, even everybody loves the bug-breaking film. A name like Sparkle Monique, that's an old 90s stripper name. What's going on with y'all, man? Hope y'all doing good. Hope y'all are doing good, ladies and gentlemen. Look, there's going to be a bug-breaking screening in Baltimore, I think this Sunday. This coming Sunday, we're going to have more details on the website. My brother Reza's going to be out there. Bug-breaking showing, another screening and Q&A this Sunday in Baltimore. I'm going to have details later on today. Hope everybody had a great week. Again, I'd like to thank everybody. The bug-breaking movie is just taking a life of its own. Even everybody loves the bug-breaking film. The white woman down in New Orleans, that's Madame Lalaurie. That's the one who did experiments on black people. She was doing all types of demonic things to black people, chopping up their bodies, and we Lalaurie. Or you can even type in haunted slave mansion in New Orleans, and you'll find out some information on it. You know what? I do want to come to Dallas. I want to come to Dallas. I do want to do something in Dallas. I want to do a screening and Q&A in Dallas. I need my Dallas people to let me know what venues can we get in Dallas. I need to know the venues we can get in Dallas. Let me know the venues. Shout out to New Orleans. I really, really want to do something in Dallas. What's up? I am ATLian. How are you, Michelle? We just had something down there in Atlanta. We're going to be going all over the country doing screenings and Q&A, so you guys need to come out and be a part of it. Let me take my glasses off so I can see you guys. I won't be looking like one of the fucking Blues Brothers. Yeah? But yeah, my Dallas people, let me know some of the venues out there. What's up, broke ass Negro? That's a hell of a screen name. What's up, Goddess Mentality? How are you, dear? Have a showing in DC. Well, DC ain't that far from Baltimore. Shout out to Seattle. What's up, Truth Teller? Oh yeah, they did do something about Madame Lalaurie and American Horror Story. They had Kathy Bates playing Madame Lalaurie. Shout out to my UK people. Shout out to that sister Sasha, the black activist, the sister who got shot in the head. I don't know who shot her. Some people are saying that some brothers shot her. I don't know all the details of it. They said it might have been a straight bullet. I don't know. I'm hearing different conflicting stories, but there was a sister who's a hardcore activist out there in the UK, and she's been getting a lot of threats by white supremacist groups. And then she got shot in the head. Now they're trying to blame some niggas. But hell, let's be clear. Just because some Negroes pulled the trigger, who orchestrated that shit? I don't mean anything. You ready for, what's up, Candy Pitts? You ready for your buck breaking DVD to arrive? Now, I'm gonna get some of y'all ladies on it, and y'all can't get on because y'all be having your bonnets on and the niggas be laying in with you. But it's early now, so you might be at your job. What's up, Candy Pitts?
Hey,
How are you, dear?
I'm fine. Oh my God.
Well, I mean, kids in there, kids are like, damn it, give me some juice.
It's my son. He's eating right now.
Oh, okay. What city you in, dear?
Augusta, Georgia.
Okay, shout out to Augusta, Georgia. When did you order the DVD?
Like the end of April.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna check that for you. Email me and I'll see
Hey, order.
what's going on.
Okay, I recently ordered all of the Hidden Color ones, and I watched all of them, and I've just been bragging about it to everybody, so everybody got it.
Good, I appreciate that. You need to be showing your son.
Oh, I do. I will. My son was listening to one of the YouTube videos I watched of you. I think it was an incident, and it's old. I think it was an incident where the kid, a black kid, a white kid peed on him or something, and you was like, if your sons are there, make sure they hear this. And I'm like, listen, if somebody pee on you, in my face.
Yes. Anyway, thank you so much, beloved.
Thank you.
Right, Candy Pitts. All right. A lot of folks in here. What's up, Sunshine? Let's get Sunshine in here. Some of these new faces I haven't seen. And shout out to everybody who's streaming. The stream is already here. You can stream Buck Breaking on the website. You go to the website. Hold on. Media drop off. Who is that? Who is media drop off? Let me get that next. Let me get media drop off. Okay, yes, this is somebody with a fake account, so somebody trolling. Yeah, somebody trolling from the fake account. Media drop out. Yeah, we're gonna see what's going on with the New York City streaming. We're gonna work on that. But yeah, if you wanna stream the film, you can get the DVD. What's up, my sister, Miss Strella? How are you, dear? What's up, Joya? Media drop off is trolling, yeah. You can get the DVD. You go to buckbreakingmovie.com, you get the DVD, or you can stream the film. All right? You watched it last night, much respect. What's up, Dr. Chevy? Who's this? What up, Woody Glasses? Hold on, nigga, hop on, Woody Glasses. Yeah, media drop off was read by Nigeria, so that's fine. And that's all we're gonna do, man. We're gonna keep speaking that truth to power, man. We gotta stop being afraid. What's up, Holly? How you doing? This is family. I want us to get off this thing where we are living in fear. We got to get rid of fear. Fear is rooted in doubt. I want us to stop we better get off this thing where we are afraid to handle the business that we need to handle. I know we're going up against a very hardcore, rigid system that is very elaborate called white supremacy. And we're up against a lot of odds. But listen, man, we've been here on this planet for a gazillion years. We can handle these little kiosks that we call white supremacists. Do they have the most powerful system ever created in recorded history? Yes, they do. Are we God's people? Yes, we are. You better understand that about yourself. You better understand that the Creator, God, Buddha, Allah, Yahshua, whoever you want to call it, the Most High, created melanated people first in We are the first people on this planet. People created in His image. We have to live that. We have to stop allowing these recessive, genetically deficient white supremacists to sit here and dictate what our lives and future is going to be. We have to fight back with everything we can. And we have to understand what warfare is. Warfare is not just physical, warfare is mental, warfare is psychological, warfare is sexual. So we have to counter that on all fronts. I want us to walk into power. I want us to understand power. And in order to walk in power, we got to get rid of fear. The secret of life is to live without fear. If you stop living in fear, you're going to find the secret of life. That's when you're going to be really living. Are we up against deadly white supremacists? Yes. Should we fear them? No. We shouldn't fear them. We have to deal with them on a daily basis. Every day we have to engage in different forms of warfare. Propaganda is warfare. Propaganda is not a bad thing. See, propaganda is used against us all the time. Every day we have to use counter propaganda that spreads truth. Okay? This is why, family, our movie Workin is an independent film that is outselling every other documentary film and other movies out there on the market from the mainstream media. The mainstream media with their billions of dollars, even trillions of dollars. We're like David and Goliath. We're going up against a giant, and we're beating that giant as far as getting the message and getting our information out there. That's because we are going in there without fear. When you watch Workin, you can see we clearly don't give a fuck what these white supremacists think. See, when you start living like that, when you get that in your system, yeah, stop the infighting and all that stuff. Yeah, I ain't with none of that infighting. If I get in on some other black folks, usually as y'all see, I do it in a roasting, joking way, and then I just keep it pushing. I don't try to linger on it too long. You're at home, you're gonna have some kids watch with your dad, that's great. Now let's be clear. Now I want people to be clear. If people have screenings, if you're doing it around your neighborhood or your friend's house or whatever, that's cool. But then I see people trying to do open screenings and charge money and all that. Y'all can't do that. Y'all gotta holler at me because see, we're going on tour and I don't want people to be confused. So I don't want people to have public unauthorized screenings where you're charging folks to come see the movie and you're renting out some places. You can't do that. You can't be all willy-nilly. You gotta do good business because that confuses people because we're setting up tours right now and we don't want people to get wrong, you know what I'm saying? It'll just be a bunch of confusion. All right? What's up, Dallas? And I really want to go see my folks in Dallas, man. Dallas is always represented. Dallas is always represented. We do need a Los Angeles screening. I want to do something out here too. We've got a lot of folks in this room. Yeah? Yes. The white supremacists are not going to give you power. That's real talk. Listen, family. This thing right now, today is the anniversary of George Floyd getting murdered. And, people are debating back and forth on social media. You got a bunch of the white supremacist conservatives talking about how much of a thug he was and how he deserved it and all that. Family, I'm so done. I'm not even thinking about going back and forth with these folks. I'm not even thinking about going back and forth with them. These people are engaged in warfare against us. Black family, I want you to understand, there is not ever going to be some type of kumbaya existence with the white supremacists. That's never going to happen. We need to get that in our system. Whenever we start talking about not being systematically mistreated, people start talking about equality and all this old kumbaya bullshit. It's never going to be no kumbaya. Never. We do not have minority allies. All we have are other non-white groups who take on the same anti-black rhetoric and culture as the dominant society. We have no friends. We don't need them. There's enough of us to be friends with our damn selves. We do not need them. I want us to get on the right track and stay on code. That's one of the biggest fears of the dominant society, us as black people getting on code. Yeah, their job is to waste your damn time. As you see, family, we got Buck Breaking, the #1 film out here, killing the game, didn't ask for permission, didn't bite our tongue. We weren't afraid to go all the way in. And we understand that we're not going to be dependent on the white supremacists. We're going to have to learn how to depend on ourselves, and we have to learn how to work and build things independent of the white supremacists. We're going to really have to get in that mindset. I want us to get to the mindset of us making money without the white supremacists being in our business, us growing food. We need to learn how to feed ourselves without the white supremacists being in our mix. We know how to do that. We've been doing it for the last 4 or 5 centuries. We know how to feed ourselves. We actually if you look at some of the hidden colors films, a lot of areas around the country were founded by black people. In New York, they had a place called Seneca Village. We talked about that. Seneca Village ended up being prime real estate. The white supremacists wanted that area. It was a black area. They said, we're going to do eminent domain, move all the black people out, and rename it Central Park. Central Park used to be a black neighborhood in Seneca Village. It's like that all over the country. Out here where I'm in California, which is California, was founded by the original black Aboriginal people. The original people of California were jet black Aboriginal people. But here in Los Angeles, it was some black families coming in from Mexico, because there was a lot of black folks in Mexico who founded Los Angeles. The first mayor, technically mayor of the Port of Los Angeles, was a man named Francisco Reyes, who was black as well. He founded where I live, in San Fernando Valley. So we've always founded these, we've settled these cities and areas and towns, and we cultivated the food and the culture, and the white supremacists just kind of come in and swoop it up. Yeah, Bruce's Beach out there in Manhattan Beach, where they said they're going to give that property back to the black family and descendants of the Bruce's Beach owners. Yeah? Can I get some game from starting and expanding black businesses? Absolutely. Listen, in order to start and expand black businesses, to do black business, number one, you're going to have to be a person who is trustworthy. What's up, beautiful black folks? And I tell people this all the time. Why certain black people get things popping and certain black folks don't. You have to have trust within the reputation of trust. When people see that you are going to be consistently thorough with what you do, they will rock with you. And that's kind of unfortunate for us. We have to build trust, whereas other groups can come in and trust is already given to a certain degree. But let's be clear, with black folks, unfortunately, there are too many people who come in, and a lot of outsiders who are really not FBA, who come in on some scam shit and try to use our blackness as a cloak to hide their scams. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of that. That's why I say trust is very important. We do have a lot of scamming niggas out. We do have a lot of scamming niggas, and that's very, very important. Extremely important. But when you earn trust, when we show people you ain't on no scam shit, you're going to be very consistent, you're going to be transparent. Then, once you gain trust, you have to engage your customer base with quality. That's another thing. We think just because the audience is black, we'll just throw them anything and you're supposed to trust me and support me because I'm black. No, we got to get off this janky business. We got to get off this bare minimum business where you give black folks the bare minimum. Don't do that. When you look at our movies, let's go back to Buck Breaking. The reason why so many people appreciate the movie, they see the money and the quality put in that film. And all of my films, I put high quality. I make my movies So I'm not going to give black people less than stellar material just because they're black. We gotta get off that fucking mentality. Let me say, with buck breaking, it was delayed because the first pass of it, we had it pressed up and everything, and I listened in a sound booth, and I didn't, the sound just wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. So I had everything, I spent thousands of dollars to get the sound design redone, just so that our folks can have good quality sound and visuals. I'm a stickler for every little goddamn detail. Every little detail has to be very meticulous. We have to be like that with each other because we deserve the best quality. I'm going to give my audience the absolute best quality. And you can see it and feel it when you look at my films. That's why these films are selling through the damn roof. You understand? You've got to give quality material to your people. Let's look at certain brands that really took off. Back in the day, the Carlton Eye brand and the Cross Color brand, these things they took off because our brother Carlton Eye, he took special care to make good quality clothes. The clothes were very good quality. Those were some durable ass clothes back in the day. You understand? When you put quality and you really take time to put detail and you want to make sure that people are going to get the best product for their dollar, people are going to respect that. That goes a long way. There's an old saying called the real McCoy. The real McCoy came from a black man named Elijah McCoy. He used to make these products, and he made them so good, there were other knockoffs of his products. And even white folks were like, no, I don't want this knockoff bullshit. I want the real McCoy. That's based on a black man named Elijah McCoy. You understand? So I want us to have that mentality. Shout out to my brother Nubian Bookstore. My brother Marcus Williams. This is another example. My brother Marcus Williams has a bookstore in Atlanta, Nubian Bookstore. Great book, beautiful bookstore. See, a lot of times we think, I've seen bookstores before that's so janky looking. And shout out to them. You go in, the bookstore is basically a swap meet booth. It's shit all over the place. They sell a read on the side. It's just something that's thrown together. I used to see this in the 90s. A lot of these old thrown together bookstores. That would be a bookstore / daycare center / laundromat / taxidermy. You know, it was everything. But my brother Marcus Williams, his bookstore, man, beautiful bookstore, well designed, set up beautifully, man. He got all types of different sections. A children's section. He has a section for DVDs. There's clothing in there. There's a section with all my stuff there. High quality, man. Real good stuff. That's why my brother's been around for 20-something years. Yeah? Black folks deserve good quality shit. I want us to get off this janky bare minimum mentality. Yeah. Y'all know how niggas do. Niggas get a business and they try to do everything and then they end up making it janky because you can't put your all in everything. Yeah? Yeah. So man, always be on good quality. Always respect good quality. Always have good quality stuff out. Yeah, no bootlegs. And that's a good thing. People have been respecting buck breaking so much, there has not been a lot of bootlegs, which is good, and I respect that. Because see, we understand how important it is for us to be on code, for people to not be bootlegging and all that shit. That's not the way, because this is something we're going to support. Let me tell you something, guys. June is coming up in a couple of days. The month of June. These folks are going to go soon. June is Pride Month. That's Pride Month. So family, they're going to go in. They're already about to go in hard on us, man. They're going in hard on Pride Month, man. You're going to go into grocery stores, Target stores. You're going to see rainbows. They're marketing LGBT clothes to kids. You're going to see that heavy in the month of June. So y'all better get ready. Y'all better get ready. That's psychological warfare. I saw somebody sent me a picture of a Target store where they had some clothes for Pride Month, and they had some kid mannequins, and the kid mannequins, these are kid mannequins, and they spread open with their pussy popped open. These are kid mannequins with their pussy bust open, dude. This is sick they got going on, dude. I'm not trying to negotiate with these white supremacists. The shit that they're doing, they got pussy boy mannequins out here, dude, with rainbow shirts on, talking about him, her, she, they, and all that old bullshit. This is warfare. Yeah, I talked about that Sunday, where they got Kellogg's, they got cereal with rainbow and Tony the Tiger's moist, and they got all, it's warfare. You're about to see this thing heavy in June. I'm telling you, you're about to get heavy. Buck breaking could not have come out at a more perfect time. This is the perfect time, family. This is something that you have to share with your family. Yeah? It's supposed to be black folks, absolutely. Man. Yes, they are coming for our children, Daniela. But we doing it, yeah. Coach Brand with rainbow shoes, like, damn. Yeah, you about to see rainbows all over the place, man. You about to see it's about to go hard. It's about to go hard body for the month of June. What's up, Chelsea? Yeah, the birds out here. Yeah, I'm about to go in the house in a minute. My kid's about to make a bunch of noise. But what's up, hot boy Gab? I see you. Oh yeah, shout out to Kevin Samuels. What's up, Mommy 513? Yeah, we gotta keep our mental health as the two sets of the movie. But yeah, again, you guys can get the DVD and you can stream the movie. You can get the DVD and you can stream the movie. Oh, by the way, did y'all see the interview I did with my brother Beehive down in Atlanta? He put that up today. If you go to YouTube and type in Tariq Nasheed and Beehive, my brother down at Hot 107, we did an interview and we chopped up some game about the film. You can stream the movie at buckbreakingmovie.com. Buckbreakingmovie.com. Shout out to New Orleans. And the movie has really resonated with a lot of people there. The movie has really touched a lot of people. A lot of folks didn't expect the game to be that deep, and that's another thing. I like to go above and beyond. I like to exceed the expectations when we do movies. Yeah. You got the $99 pack, yes. You can get the box set where you can get Buck Breaking and 1804 and all the hit colors movies, so you can get 7 price at $99. Man. You got to stream after the Lakers game, show your nephew, show your kids. Yeah, that mansion in New Orleans. And you guys can go down and visit. You can't go inside. It's a tourist attraction out there in New Orleans. Yeah. But that's what we do, man. We're going to keep speaking truth to power, man. Hey, we got to keep speaking truth to power. These folks ain't letting up. We ain't going to let up either. And again, I'm already hyped. Usually it takes me a minute after I do a movie. I take a break for about a year. I ain't taking a break right now. Buck Breaking is out, and I'm about to go right into the next movie. We're about to start filming in Florida. We're about to film out here. We're going to film in the Virginias. So we're getting we're scouting for locations now. We're going to start filming probably next month. So we're just getting all the scouting and all that done right now. Yes, indeed. I'm still trying to think of a name for the movie, man. It was going to be 1526, but I'm not going to name it that because we're talking about so much more stuff besides 1526. So I'm still trying to think of a name for the movie. What's up, everybody in Detroit? Shout out to Detroit. All right. Oh yeah, we're definitely going to mention the Gullah Geechee in the Seminole movie. We just got to, because a lot of the Seminoles were Gullah Geechee. They were coming in from South Carolina. They were going down there. You know, there's another, speaking of runaway slaves and all that. There's Amazon, and you notice how the dominant society, they try to get in on our wave and try to do their own version of it. Amazon, they have a streaming series called Underground Railroad. And it had potential, but it's falling flat. It has potential, but it's falling flat. It's all over the place. It's not really, it's kind of hard to describe. It's just all over the place. So it doesn't really hit the mark. So that's why it's up to us to tell these stories and tell the truth from our perspective. All right. You say you're tired of seeing us as slaves? No. You're tired of seeing us as slaves and being abused. See, we need to start talking about when we fall back. You see, there's nothing wrong with talking about slavery. What context are we talking about? You understand? See, let's get off this thing where we don't want to talk about slavery. See, people in the Jewish community, they always talk about the Holocaust because they never want you to forget it. They always make movies about the Holocaust. We have to make movies about our Holocaust as well, but we have to tell it in our truth. The way Hollywood talks about slavery, there's always a savior aspect of it, where there's some white people who low-key saved us. There was some kind of benevolent white person who came through and threw us a lifeline. And we got to get off that narrative. We have to talk about it on our terms. See, I did a movie about slavery called 1804, The Hidden History of Haiti. That's a movie about slavery, but it's a phenomenal movie because it didn't talk about black folks just sitting around getting mistreated. It talked about black folks rising the fuck up and fighting back. That's why that movie has resonated. Oh, they were mad at me for 1804. Do y'all know these white supremacists were so mad at me? They were like, oh, you're trying to send dog whistles to the niggas out here. You see what you're doing. Oh, you're trying to get niggas to rise up. They were accusing me of all types of stuff. Yeah? Just for telling the truth about history. Yeah? Did you go to watch it yet? Very good film. Yeah. That movie Underground Railroad, yeah, a lot of the actors are African too. Yeah? Oh, King of New York, hold on. This nigga, hold on. King of New York, you trolling in here, brother. Hold on. King of New York, get your ass in here. Rise of the warrior class. You have belly in your family? Yeah. Property of black pain. We're not victims. Well, you are victims. You're victims of white supremacy. King Jarrett. My wife over here. What's up, Lexi? What's up? I'm on live. Where you going? Like run in, come and say hi. Shit. I know you look a mess. Oh, but shit, don't show your license plate. What's that? She ain't got no makeup on. What's going on? About to run there? You got no makeup on. What's going on? What's happening? Okay.
When you here?
I'm not too long ago. What's that else?
Yesterday.
Okay. I'm not showing your license. With the teacher coming? Okay. That's not. Okay. All right, Lexi. That is sexy Lexi. All right. But we got what I was talking about. I was talking about slaves and stuff. As long as we're talking about it from our perspective in a way that's going to empower you, how can you take this information and be empowered? Yeah.
DD. The family came from North Carolina. Can you ask a question? Yes, King of Wakanda. Can you ask a question? When am I coming back to New Orleans? I don't know, but I do want to come back to New Orleans. I really love New Orleans. Well, great. It was excellent. Much respect, and I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Yes, we'll let folks know that we fought back. I want us to really get this slave thing in perspective. A lot of us were not just a very important story to understand. Yeah. Damn. Haven't had a chance to plan it. Plus, things are just now opening up, so we're definitely not doing that this year. You're watching Buck Breaking in the UK. Shout out to my UK people. Like, that's why we went on and put it on streaming so that my UK people can get it, so they can rock it and watch it. So, shout out to all my UK folks. A few times. Yes, you gotta watch it a few times. I'm not scared of the virus, going down. What's up, Sunshine? I tried to get you on, Sunshine. I get Sunshine back on. Get Sunshine up here. Looking like she makes real good potato salad with chips. The FBA conference be in Charlotte. Yeah, prayers for Sasha Johnson. That's the sister who got shot. Come to Cleveland and hear his perspective. About 2 or 3 times to catch every day. There's a lot of stuff in there. It's a film that's packed with a lot of information. We go into ancient history, we go into slavery, we touch on Jim Crow, we touch on the civil rights movement, we touch on the pedophilia movement, we touch on the transhumanism movement, we touch on the scientific buck breaking that they do in prisons and with the foods. Estrella showed me a video. She gave me a video about a year or so ago of them going around New York spraying these pesticides all over Brooklyn and the Bronx. And they used to do that. They do it out here too, but they used to do it when I lived in Alabama. They would come around and spray all this shit. And y'all gotta understand what's in those chemicals that they go around, particularly black neighborhoods, spraying around. So real deep. Yeah, my sister Estrella sent me a video. It was like one in the morning. They're going around Brooklyn spraying shit with a police escort with a truck spraying these fumes and chemicals all over. Yeah. So we better know what these folks are doing. Oh yeah, a lot of game dropped in that movie. Yeah, the air is much different. I remember one time I went to Atlanta. I don't know something was in the air. The minute I got off the plane in Atlanta, I just kept sneezing. My eyes were watering. I don't know what was going on with the air in Atlanta. It was a couple of years ago. Yeah, people got allergies out of nowhere. Real talk. Oh yeah, shout out to Bree and Layla. They were doing the live stream and I hopped on with them earlier. Yeah, I missed them. We're gonna have to do an HISM reunion pretty soon with them. How do you stream it? You can stream it at buckbreakingmovie.com. Go to the website, you can stream it. Buckbreakingmovie. Oh yeah, we got soy products in jail. They do a lot of stuff in jail. We talked about how They put stuff in the food they call it soft Peter. That messes with male libido. That's been going on for years. I used to go to the county. Yeah. Mr. Real Cool, no, old dude is not going to be in none of my films. Absolutely not. Man. But let me tell you something. I want y'all to be very clear. A lot of white people are getting the buck breaking movie too. When they see we're on something, they gonna hop on it too. The buck breaking movie studying it because they know what's up. They're getting it too, and they're studying it. Why is your live request blocked? I don't know, man. But I'm definitely gonna have to do a buck breaking too. And we see the success of this one. We gotta later on down the line do a buck breaking too. Shout out to Brother Polite. I haven't talked to Brother Polite in a minute. Shout out to my brother Godfrey. Shout out to Godfrey. Yeah, I do a big buck broken too. But anyway, let me get out of here, man. Let me go in the house and see what's going on with the kiddies. But again, go to buckbreakingmovie.com. Buckbreakingmovie.com. Get the DVD, stream the movie. Y'all can get that right now. But
said 15 billion. That's a lot of money, isn't it? The surprising thing is that it's a fresh market, still full of opportunities. It grew up so fast, got so big in a hurry, that few of us realize its scope. Now these days, nobody's likely to pass up chances to sell. And yet right here in our own front yard, there's a neglected market. There's money waiting to be spent. To get the story of this market, to be able to tell you the secret of selling the Negro, we did a lot of digging. We talked to leading businessmen, the customers, and the salesmen. We went to Washington, D.C. We set up cameras and other key points around the nation. And out of this all, there emerged a story. The story of a new market. Yes, this is the market we're talking about. The new Negro family. Their name is Wells or Wilson, Smith or Brown or Alexander or Green. They live in Chicago, in Atlanta or New York, in Detroit, St. Louis, Los Angeles, any one of the thousands cities and towns. All over the country, families such as this are enjoying new prosperity. They have new interests, new standards of living, a buying power they've never enjoyed before. There are good prospects for practically all types of goods and services. All too often, though, they're overlooked prospects. Why? Because of some good, valid reason? No. They're overlooked because of mistaken ideas. Because of out-of-date ideas about how the Negro lives and how he buys. The truth of the matter is that the Negro lives pretty much the same as other folks. He buys. secret of selling the Negro, we did a lot of digging. We talked to leading businessmen, the customers, and the salesmen. We went to Washington, D.C. We set up cameras and other key points around the nation. And out of this all, there emerged a story. The story of a new market. Yes, this is the market we're talking about. The new Negro family. Their name is Wells or Wilson, Smith or Brown or Alexander or Green. They live in Chicago, in Atlanta or New York, in Detroit, St. Louis, Los Angeles, any one of the thousands cities and towns. same, a lot of old doubts and opinions keep cropping up over and over again.
I don't like to do business with Negroes. They're drifters. You can't keep track of them.
Yes, although a lot of people think that way, the truth is that 1 out of every 3 Negro families living in cities today owns its own home. That figure comes directly from the United States Bureau of Census.
Maybe so, but Negroes are poor credit risk.
Not more of a credit risk than any other group. Actually, the Negro homebuyer meets his payments faithfully, often more faithfully than other race groups in the same economic level. That's the information we got from people who want to know, the National Association of Real Estate Boards.
Well, maybe, but I've always heard that Negroes buy shoddy, poor quality merchandise.
No, it's just the other way around. According to leading researchers, in proportion to population and income, Negroes buy more quality products than any other comparable United States group. You see, there are a lot of confused notions about the Negro customer. But when you dig right down and find out about them, they just don't hold water. Negroes own homes. They meet their payments faithfully. They buy good brands of merchandise. So why let a lot of old-fashioned ideas hurt profits? Take a look at the real facts. Here in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, some amazing facts and figures about this new market have been uncovered. For a first-hand report, we would like to take you directly to the United States Department of Commerce to hear this story from the Secretary of Commerce himself. Here is the Honorable Sinclair Weeks, the Secretary of Commerce of the United States.
In the Department of Commerce, we are constantly alert to trends that mean a healthier national economy, better business for the nation as a whole. Recently, we have been interested in a rising young market, one that represents a huge potential for goods and services. I'm referring to the new Negro market. The tremendous buying power of this group is backed, of course, by an increased earning power. The average Negro family's income is at a record high. In fact, since 1939, it has increased more than the average income of all other Americans. Just take a look at a few figures. An official Department of Commerce report shows that at least 1/3 of the Negroes living in cities earn from $2,000 to $5,000 a year. Today, the average Negro wage earner brings home a paycheck 4 times larger than the one he collected in 1939. As a whole, the Negro market has a total income of about $15 billion every year. And after taxes, Negro families still have many millions of dollars to spend. Here is a buying power that cannot help but have a tremendous effect on our national economy and on business prosperity in general. When these dollars are spent for a wide range of goods, services, and employment, business everywhere is bound to feel the impact.
This new buying power has resulted in a class Negro market, a profitable, above-average income group of consumers. For example, the nation's largest newspaper and magazine research organization, Daniel Starch and Staff, reports these significant figures. More than 51% of the readers of Ebony magazine have a record player in their homes. Almost 64% own a television set. And almost 78% enjoy the convenience of an electric refrigerator. It is also a fact, and this is from the magazine The Food Field Reporter, that Negroes spend almost $3 billion a year for food alone. Per capita, they buy more cosmetics, drugs, and toiletries than anyone else in the country. And their children are better educated, too, because since 1930, enrollment in Negro colleges is up 2,500%. But really, to recognize the importance of this class Negro market, we must realize that something has been happening economically in our country. People are on the move. The population is shifting. The makeup of metropolitan populations today is different than it was just a few short years ago. To give you a better idea of what we mean, we set up several cameras, candid cameras, in a number of shopping locations. Take a look at these shoppers. this, that actually in 14 major United States markets, a product cannot be number one without Negro support. A product must have the backing of this big new buying power to be a leader in the field. What do you have to sell? Freedom or cars? Toothpaste or transportation? Whatever it is, here are millions of prospects. And these prospects are everywhere. Negro customers can no longer be pigeonholed. They cannot be classified as prospects who trade only in certain stores, certain neighborhoods. Today, Negroes shop downtown. They shop in supermarkets. They shop in small neighborhood stores. They'll buy from anyone who wants to sell to them. But we all know that before you can sell to customers, you've got to get to know them. You must understand something about them. What do the Negro customers buy? Why do they buy? How do you sell to them? Let's find out. Let's hear the opinion of men who have spent a lifetime studying the habits of customers the world over. Here's what sales psychologists have to say about selling to the Negro. The secret of selling to the Negro is expressed in one word. That word is recognition. Now, there's nothing unusual about that. People want to be recognized. They need recognition. That's basic in all of us. But perhaps because he's had so little of it, the Negro needs even more. He needs to feel important and appreciated. This need is a very real and important one. It shows up even in many of the Negro's shopping habits. Anyone who sells or wants to sell to the Negro customer should know about some of these habits. 3 habits in particular play a big part in every sales transaction. To begin with, most Negroes buy by brand. They ask for products by name. They're quick to turn down off brands. Do you wonder why? Well, listen to what this customer is thinking.
That last hat I bought just didn't hold up at all.
You see, for a long time, the Negro has been sold a lot of shoddy, second-class merchandise. So now he asks for name brands in order to make sure he gets his money's worth. Buying by brand, that's the first important Negro buying habit. Now for the second. The Negro buys good quality merchandise. Symbols of quality and prestige are very important to the Negro customer. This woman, for example, is buying fine crystalware, but she is also buying the admiration and approval of her friends and relatives. Listen to her thoughts.
Isn't it beautiful? I can hardly wait to show it to Sally and Joe.
It's a well-known fact that many Negro customers are influenced by the opinions of others. What their friends may think of a certain item often decides whether or not the sale is made. So remember, the Negro buys quality merchandise. That's the second important point. And here's the third thing to remember when selling to a Negro customer. When he specifically asks for one thing, don't try to sell him something else. Don't try to switch him at the point of sale. If you do, he'll probably react something like this.
Doesn't he think I've got the money to pay for it?
There's a reason for this reaction. Again, because he's had experience with cheap merchandise, the Negro resents being offered a substitute. He wants to be sold on quality, not price. The Negro buys by brand, he buys quality, and he doesn't like to be switched at point of sale. These are the keys to selling the Negro customer. Another point. The Negro family does things together, as a group. The family works as a unit. It lives as a unit, and it buys as a unit. When you sell to one member, you many times sell to all. It's also true that many places of entertainment are still closed to the Negro. So he spends more of his money for the things that are available to him, often for items that are considered luxuries. Another trait of the Negro market is the fact that it is a pre-sold market. We know that the Negro buys by brand, and he buys the
brands that he knows something about. Where does the Negro buyer get this information? We know that Negro customers are turning more and more to the publications that are tailored specifically to their needs, that give them the news and the information that they want to read about. Many leading businessmen and companies already know this. That's why so many of them are taking this direct, sure route of reaching the Negro customer. The vice president of advertising of the Draw and Watch Company, for example, says this.
In many important cities throughout the United States, Negroes are important customers of the credit union. Therefore, it seemed that Ebony magazine would be a very important advertising medium for us. We would say it was very well received, and from our viewpoint, a very successful campaign.
From the Remington Rand Company comes this statement.
Our records show that advertising in Ebony has been effective in many ways. As all good advertising should, it has built a terrific amount of goodwill and has brought a volume of sales and sales inquiries.
A representative of the Alaca Syrup Company makes this statement.
Because of Alaca's regard for the influence of Ebony in the Negro market, advertising space was doubled. Alaca's long experience in selling to Negroes now takes the most direct route to its best customers, reaching Ebony's 2.5 million audience in every issue.
And here are the statements of still other business leaders.
Yes, many business leaders are discovering the most direct and most efficient way of reaching the new Negro market. Look here at the results of the same advertisement in two different publications, Ebony and another general magazine. You can see that proportionately, more men and women read the ad in Ebony than the one in the other magazine. And they did a better job of remembering it, too. A greater percentage of readers noted, associated, and remembered the ad in Ebony. But now, wait a minute. If the Negro market is so big and easy to reach, why aren't more companies going out after it? Well, often because of the feeling that there's something entirely different, unusual about selling to the Negro. But is it really so different? What do salesmen say? The successful salesmen who do a good job of selling in Negro communities. How do you go about getting the order?
How do I get the order? Well, to tell you the truth, I don't do anything. Anything different, that is. I've been calling on these accounts long enough to know that the Negro just wants to be treated like everybody else. No matter who you're calling on, a little friendliness and courtesy help a lot. But naturally, anybody resents being patronized or talked down to. So I usually call a man Mr. Brown, Mr. Smith, or Mr. whatever his name is, until he tells me to call him by his first name. And of course, I always stick to business. I stay away from talk about race or religion or politics. Well, that goes for talk about Negro celebrities, too. You know, this business about who good fighters and singers the Negroes are. Who cares? When a guy's in business, no matter what color his skin is, he's interested in making a living, in making money. That's uppermost in his mind. I guess maybe what I'm saying is that I try to help any way I can. Sometimes with displays or ad materials, or an idea once in a while. The important thing is that if it helps push sales for the dealer, it helps push them for me, too.
Handle the Negro account just like any of your others. Don't patronize. Stick to business. Get interested in the account. Pitch in and help any way you can. Sounds like pretty good sales advice. That's the secret of selling the Negro. Well, how about it? What do you think of this new market? It can open new outlets for you and for everybody who sells goods or services. It's still possible to get in on the ground floor when this market is just beginning to grow and to expand. The facts and the figures that we see here are just a small sample of what they promise to be next year and the years after that. Yes, here are men and women with money to spend, and they spend it for exactly the same things as you and I and everyone else. They buy almost every service that you have to offer. And they can be reached, like everyone else, through publications that appeal to their interests and desires. That deliver the kind of loyal readership that can be proved both in surveys and in down-to-earth sales. Here is a ready-made market waiting to be asked to buy. Here are millions of customers for what you